Things I hate about MMORPGs by LazyPeon, and he starts the video off with Lost Ark. It's very good. It's so bad. Wow, the duality of chat. All right, here we go.
MMORPGs can, at times, be really fun games, banding together with large groups of players doing epic stuff like fighting dragons, sieging cities, and hunting down legendary loot to spike your dopamine.
PvP.
However, as someone that's been covering MMOs on YouTube for the past 8...
I love... Have you guys ever... Whenever I watch his videos now, I've just noticed that he's always going PvP. I love me some PvP. Some Gen A. I love me some PvP.
8 years, I've realised that a lot of them have similar problems. Oftentimes when I'm doing my first impression pros and cons list, a lot of the cons for one MMO could be directly applied to another MMO, and it's made me realise that there's certain things MMOs do that really piss me off. So today I'm going to have a bit of a rant about all of the things that I hate about MMORPGs. But first, today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Raid is a completely free mobile RPG with over 80 million global players worldwide. The game features top-notch graphics and offers both casual and competitive gaming, where players can collect over 700 unique champions, customize them, fight in-game bosses, or compete in real-time battles in the arena. Raid is now increasing its roster of awesome-looking champions with a brand new rarity, Mythical, a step above legendary champions.
Has anyone actually ever played Raid Shadow Legends seriously? Like, is it a fun game, or...?
Special new mechanic called Metamorph that allows them to change between two different forms. This transformation grants them a fresh appearance, new abilities, and enhanced skills. Mythical champions are summoned from primal shards, and both of their forms utilize the same gear and skills. So make sure to check out the new update, and if you click my link or scan the QR code on screen, you'll also get a free starter pack with a bunch more in-game loot. And on top of that, if you log into Raid on 7 different days between August 22nd and October 23rd, you'll also get the legendary champion Sun Wukong for free. Click the link in the description below to download Raid Shadow Legends now. Inventory management and tedious looting. One thing that makes me want to instantly quit an MMO is if it becomes quickly obvious that I'll need to spend a significant amount of time sorting through my inventory.
That was one thing that really pissed me off about Lost Ark when I first started playing, and it was also something that made it was hard to get over in BDO at the start. When I didn't have a system down, I was getting really fucking annoyed, man. I was getting really annoyed with BDOs, looting, and Lost Ark, honestly, has done better, but it was really annoying. Like, honestly, the battle item thing is one thing that's just like, ugh, it's so annoying, you know?
Whether it be from straight up running out of space after a few minutes of killing mobs, or the game just bombarding me with useless items to fill up my bags that don't really need to exist. Some games do this to sell you more inventory space. Others do it because the devs don't play their own game enough to realise it's an issue. I've played some MMOs where you're also expected to loot every item from each individual mob kill, and I just end up asking myself why. Are the profits generated from selling inventory space and pets worth the game being so significantly worse?
That's what I always say, though, man. I've always said this. Do you think these companies have the math down? Like, do they have the math down where they know that by making their game poopy, it's worth the you think so? I don't know, man. Because it's like, dude, how many other bad decisions do they make? Do you really think these companies know? Like, we don't give, like, for example, we don't give them enough credit for like all the other stuff, but we give them enough credit to be smart enough to mathematically break down it's worth them having a poopy game at the cost of people buying more inventory space. I don't know if I buy it.
Design. I'm honestly not sure. Black Desert Online is an example of an MMO where you get so many random event items and useless outgated gear drop that it makes you want to uninstall. Lost Ark is another one. Even with the loot filter, your bags are rammed after 2 Chaos Dungeons.
So annoying.
Then you've got to spend time deciding if what's drop is worth selling or not.
Inventory is just ridiculous. I don't even know where all the items go. Where did they go? I actually feel like it's fake. Like, where are all of the items in his inventory? Where are they? This is old Lost Ark, by the way. This is old room. I don't know. Like, where are they? Pet inventory? Like, so it's just hidden. It's just an ambush in there.
Alongside having to constantly have like 2 rows of your inventory
That's an old place on this,
filled with battle items.
Or is that his
Before
uncle's
adding
place?
an item to the game, I wish devs would ask themselves the following questions.
Okay.
1. Does this item really need to exist?
Yeah.
2. Could this item be stored in its own separate inventory that the player doesn't need to deal with? And 3. Does adding this item take the player out of the gameplay to make a decision as to whether or not the item is useless and needs to be destroyed? Personally, I hate having to squint my eyes reading and spending time trying to figure out if the stuff in my inventory is useful.
Yep.
This is made easier though when games display an estimated value for the item right from the inventory, or do some kind of UI pop-up alerting me that I've received a rare drop that I should care about. Looting should be a dopamine spike and an exciting moment in an MMO, so games that fuck this up are clearly doing something wrong.
Okay.
Having to dig through external sources to search for a build. Let's be honest, almost every MMO nowadays requires that you go to an external website to search for a viable build for your class, and MMOs are so imbalanced that not playing a viable build will either get you kicked from groups, not invited, or struggle to clear content. For me, I just want to get into the action as quickly as possible, so if I need to spend a lot of time digging through builds on Google, reading pages upon pages of information, then spend a lot of time in-game actually implementing said build through the UI, or buying 30 different components off the auction house, by the time I'm ready to actually play the game, I'm already annoyed.
What are we trying to do here, though?
Why don't more MMOs just do us a favour and implement community-voted builds right into the UI, similar to what Dota 2 does?
Okay.
Theory crafters could receive rewards for getting a certain amount of upvotes, builds would be more up-to-date, and for Extra Life's legal view botting would be less effective.
You're gonna win that over with
Daily
that.
chores and time gates. A mistake we've seen quite a few MMO devs make over the years is implementing daily systems combined with time gates that make players feel like they need to work through a list of chores every day before getting to the content that they actually want to do.
This guy actually played a shitload of Lost Ark, I remember, at launch. It's kind of sad that he never made it through, because he was grinding the fuck out of Lost Ark. I think he had like 5 1370s, I remember. Do you guys remember it? Like, he had like 5 1370s at like Argos level when Argos came out. It was crazy.
I can understand why devs think this way, as you want to retain players and give them a reason to log in every day, but from the player's point of view it makes them burn out of the game way quicker than just having more flexibility.
Fair enough. I
What
agree.
usually happens is players will do the chores for a few weeks, then they'll miss a day, then another, and eventually ask themselves, if I'm spending half of my playtime doing chores that I don't really find fun, then why am I playing in the first place? Then they quit. This has happened to me with a few MMOs in the past.
What the fuck is this
The first
game?
one that comes to mind was Arcade Unchained when it first released. The entire endgame progression system was tied to dailies and weeklies that rewarded you with scrolls to upgrade your gear. I did it for a few weeks and very quickly it made me sick of the game, despite actually having fun with other content outside of that. Another MMO that made me burn out quite fast with its dailies at release was Lost Ark. I think I kept up with the daily, weekly grind for 2 months, then I took a week off and felt a massive weight off my shoulders. I think most of us have enough daily chores to deal with in the real world, so adding to that list of chores as a game, which is supposed to be an escape from reality, is pretty much always a bad idea.
Fair enough.
Remember the days when making gold in an MMO was actually something you'd need to think about? The feeling of getting a rare drop and being excited because of how valuable it was? Leveling up your crafting and gathering so you could make money consistently, and you'd get little dopamine spikes whenever you saw a gathering.
What is with that fuck? That's some that's some crazy ass fucking hair though. Holy.
You could make money consistently, and you'd get little dopamine spikes whenever you saw a rare gatherable resource out in the world. For many MMOs nowadays, this is a thing of the past because they straight up sell you in-game currency on the cash shop. You've got RuneScape's bonds, the WoW token, Lost Ark's gem to gold conversion, Albion Online's gold to silver conversion, BDO allows you to sell cash shop outfits for raw silver, and the list goes on. Some MMOs claim that providing these services combats real-world trading, but in reality, does it really? For me, if I see that an MMO is willing to undermine the integrity of their game,
this was
then I'd be more likely
crazy,
to
dude.
engage.
Do you remember these fucking bot factories and they were posting videos with their sandals and shit sitting on some crack house with a couch? That shit was insane, dude. When they were like walking on their sandals and shit in the crack house, dude. And they had a little couch and shit, and they didn't give a fuck. It was insane.
In RMT, as I'd probably be getting way better value from the gold sellers anyway. You could argue that gold selling has always been a thing in MMOs, so why shouldn't devs provide this service themselves? The difference is that for most MMOs, RMT is against the terms of service, so you're basically putting your account at risk.
I mean,
for me, this is enough of a deterrent, so long as it's actually enforced by the devs. But now that most MMOs sell in-game gold, it's basically put a real-life dollar amount on every activity and item in the game. If you earn more than minimum wage, are you really going to spend 6 hours gathering and crafting to make $2 per hour worth of gold, when you could just do an hour of overtime and buy your gold instead? Not only does having a dollar
there's always those really
type
bad takes. I work in real life, so I don't have to work in the game. That's what people always say, though. There's always somebody that does that. I grind in real life, so I don't have to grind in the game. It's like, oh shit.
To everything you do in game take away from the escapism of an MMO, but it also makes vast amounts of the game's content feel completely pointless, and this feeling only gets worse with the more money that you make IRL. If I was broke, I'd probably still want to earn all of my money legitimately because I'd have no other choice. I'd get to fully enjoy the economy side of a game, but if I'm earning 6 figures, then that side of the game basically doesn't exist if an MMO allows me to buy gold from the cash shop or doesn't punish RMT. So how do you actually fix this? There's 2 ways. Number 1, not selling gold on your cash shop, and ban players either permanently or for 6 months who buy gold from RMT websites. Most players won't want to risk losing an account with thousands of hours of time investment. Number 2, straight up disable player-to-player trading and have an auction house with price limits like
I think BDO does it pretty well.
Basically implement BDO's trading system without allowing people to sell cash shop items for silver.
It's really good.
Of course, doing this would probably be against the developer's best interest, as they directly profit from selling gold. It also doesn't help that it's somehow become quite normalized for MMO devs to sell gold nowadays.
I don't think the video's bad. What's wrong with the video?
This issue ever going away. Multiple gear sets. This point kind of ties into my previous points.
I mean, it's not a BDO player OM. You guys are clowning yourself. They actually have an insane system where there's no like RMT at all, except people like doing like piloting accounts. It's pretty insane. You should just get rid of trading. What's the point of trading in Lost Ark? Just trading people gold and giving them gems, and it's like there's no point. Right? If you could just put things on the auction house and it was regulated better and there wasn't so much variety in items, it'd be sick. It's all for shitty purposes anyway. Trade between alts? I mean, that's between alts. That's not trading, little bro. Trading between alts is not trading. That's not trading. What are you talking about? It's pretty much not necessary other than the accessories on the market. And if the only problem is there's too much garbage for them to regulate the prices of accessories, right? There's too much item variety. So like how, oh, Chunkman just woke up. Chunkman woke up.
About hating having my time wasted dealing and sorting through items and builds, but some MMOs require that you have multiple gear sets with different stats on them. New Worlds used to be really bad for this, but recently implemented a nice gear set storage system to fix the issue. And World of Warcraft also used to have this issue quite some time ago if you played a hybrid class like Druid, but later made it so changing spec changes your primary stats, which helped fix the issue to some extent. If you're an MMO that's designed with tons of different stats and multiple gear sets, you need to have some kind of system that makes storing, organising and switching between gear sets and builds as painless as possible. Because if this is ignored, it just takes the player out of the gameplay and has them dealing with tedious UI bullshit, as well as overwhelming them whenever they return to the game after a break. Quantity over quality questing. Now this is something that almost every MMORPG except for a select few have issues with. The games that do questing well, in my opinion, are RuneScape, Guild Wars 2, and nowadays New World has pretty good questing. I like MMOs that have quests that take you on an adventure, multiple steps, puzzles, exploration, sometimes with their own self-contained story. What I don't like is going to a quest hub, instantly having my quest log filled with 10 quests. Half of those quests are completed just by talking to an NPC, and the others are either one-step kill and collect.
He has a lot of good points in this video, man.
Sometimes less is more. It'd be better to have 10 quests that are memorable, rewarding and fulfilling, than 100 quests that are completely forgettable. Types of quests that I specifically hate are talk to me quests, escort an NPC who's moving slower than your character's run speed quests, quests where you spend more time running back and forth to hand in the quest than engaging in combat gameplay, like 90% of the questing in Final Fantasy XIV, and quests that have you standing around for ages waiting for NPCs to talk to each other, like in Guild Wars 2. This part was quite a subjective point, but I'm definitely more of a gameplay above all else kind of MMO player. If an MMO has good fundamental gameplay, I don't want to spend too much time reading, waiting around, or pretending to care about the story. I want to be doing the fun stuff, killing monsters, fighting bosses, chasing loot, and working towards completionist rewards. I actually love MMOs where I'm able to watch a stream on the other monitor and still progress. If I have to pay attention to some fully voice-acted NPCs yapping to each other for 10 minutes about the nuances of the current political climate our faction is dealing with, then I start to get annoyed and will say things like, I wish these NPCs would shut the fuck up so I can play the game. Again, probably an unpopular opinion, but I wanted to get it off my chest. Add-on requirements. Personally, I really dislike MMOs that allow for community add-ons. Why? Because in reality, certain add-ons end up being a requirement to participate in content, and in some ways actually take away from the intended gameplay of an MMO. World of Warcraft is a prime example of this. You're basically required to have multiple boss mod add-ons to raid, and they basically just tell you what to do. Every time you come back to the game, you need to update all of your add-ons. You've got massive pop-ups whenever you log in. If the game has an issue that's worthy of critique, you'll get people dismiss your critique because the issue can be solved with an add-on. It's just a mess. Also, imagine you're trying to get your friend into an MMO for the first time and you start explaining add-on requirements. It doesn't exactly sound good when you tell them, hey bro, so first you need to install this list of 10 add-ons from a download client which you'll need to create an account for.
It's like the Destiny 2 thing where you have to buy all those games and shit for Destiny 2.
And also, once the add-ons are installed, you'll need to customize them with some specific settings. If an MMO genuinely does need add-ons to be playable, then I think it's a sign that the UI designers have more work to do.
I don't think it's the UI. I think they've just gone too far. That's the problem. Like they let add-ons go, which honestly, in theory, when the game came out, when WoW released, when add-ons were fucking sick back in the day, right? Because you had this UI, and then like people like, hey, like they let them develop on it, which was cool of Blizzard back then. And then people made it's like, hey, you want to customize your UI and make it look fucking dope. At the time, they're like, oh shit, and then they let people do it, and then there was no need for them to do it because people already did it. And then eventually they did do it, and now it's kind of weird and people aren't used to it. And the main thing is it's gone on for too long, where it's like people are just so used to having add-ons, you know? Like in theory, add-ons are cool because they allow you to do cool shit, but it's just gone on for too long. It's just gone on for too long, man.
Not something that should be solved by the community with add-ons. Alt-unfriendly MMOs. There's not a whole lot to say about this point other than I really appreciate MMOs that are alt-friendly. I think having the ability to play multiple classes extends the longevity of an MMO, gives players more content and allows for more varied gameplay. I dislike MMOs that are designed in a way where you feel stuck playing one class and spec. Usually this is down to some kind of time gate being tied to progression. I remember disliking World of Warcraft Legion at the launch of that expansion for this exact reason.
That's how it always is,
Thankfully
though.
These days WoW is much more alt-friendly.
I mean,
non-account-wide completionism. This kind of ties into my previous point about alt-friendliness, but I hate MMOs that have completionism systems that you're happy to do once,
the best MMO
which don't carry over to alt
right
characters.
In front of your face.
Things like map completion, hidden item collection, achievements, and so on. Imagine if Lost Ark didn't have account-wide progress. You're able to collect all of the Makoko seeds on each character. If you reroll, you need to get all of the island souls again. You lose all of the horizontal progression skill points. You lose all of your card collection progress. The game would feel awful. For the most part, I think if something can be account-wide, then it probably should be. Autoplay AFK gameplay. Thankfully, most PC MMOs aren't designed this way. However, there's a few Korean MMOs that are quite heavy on the AFK autoplay gameplay.
Nothing wrong with it.
Black Desert Online is an MMO where you certainly benefit massively from leaving it open 24/7, and I really don't like it. The main reason to AFK in BDO is that closing the game causes your workers to stop
What do you
working.
mean? Absolutely. Let me rephrase it. Absolutely nothing wrong with it, Dirt Spitter. absolutely nothing wrong with it.
However, there's a few Korean MMOs that are quite heavy on the AFK autoplay gameplay. Black Desert Online is an MMO where you certainly benefit massively from leaving it open 24/7, and I really don't like it. The main reason to AFK in BDO is that closing the game causes your workers to stop working. You can also AFK fish and process for hours at a time too, allowing you to make way more money long term than someone who actually closes the game. Throne and Liberty is another MMO that was supposed to release this year, which was pretty much completely designed around autoplay. Thankfully, the devs seem to be changing
It's your fault.
the game quite a bit, and the recent updates to the combat are somewhat promising. The reason I hate autoplay gameplay is that just having it in the game makes it a requirement to keep up with the gear curve. Additionally, if the game has an extremely high gear ceiling and the majority of progression is designed around AFK, then how is a player who starts playing 6 months post-launch ever supposed to catch up with someone who's been AFK
Visa.
from day one? I think AFK gameplay adds nothing to the game and only serves as a system in which devs can use to pad player retention stats, or add things to the cash shop to make that AFK grind more convenient and efficient.
Discover? I don't have a Discover card, actually.
Ugly user interfaces. Not much to be said here, but I hate MMOs where half of the screen is UI, and there's so many different UI windows popping up that I need to interact with that I end up getting lost in menus. Personally, I like having a nice, clean, minimal user interface with a lot of functionality for customization, especially if I'm playing an MMO with good graphics.
That's fair enough.
A good UI will display information clearly, not invent pointless systems that don't need to exist in which you purely interact with it via a UI menu, and be easy to navigate. A bad UI will have multiple pop-ups as soon as you log into the game, an incoherent theme with different colours and animations that distract you from the gameplay, very little customization, no option to hide the UI for screenshots, as well as getting in the way of gameplay, such as not being able to move your character whilst opening the inventory or map. Transmog. This is a bit of a hot take, but I kinda miss the days of when transmog wasn't a thing in MMOs. Now, I don't actually hate transmog, but there's definitely pros and cons to its existence. Pros: collecting different gear sets from old content keeps that content somewhat relevant in terms of
I don't think it's a bad take.
Transmog as a whole adds content to an MMO. Its horizontal progression and making different transmog sets is fun. Cons: nowadays you can't look at a player in an MMO and get an accurate idea of how strong they are purely based off appearance.
I don't agree at all.
The existence of transmog also devalues.
It's not about not agreeing at all. I feel like you guys are being, Boyguard, you're being stupid. It's pretty obvious what he's saying makes sense. You may prefer the alternative of just having skins, but what he's saying is true. Also, when you have transmog, you don't get to see what people's gear is. It makes the items in the game that you do get not really have any value. It also makes the developers not really have to try at all with the way armor looks in game, because they're just going to sell you, monetize you skins. And at the same time, I mean, you're a little pay pig. When a new skin comes out, you go, oh my God, bless me with the new maid skin. Let me put down my $50 so I can just dress my characters out. And then the next month comes out, oh my God, there's new school outfits. Let me put those on with the ooh ears. Like, I get what he's saying. Like, granted, they're both fun, but I get it, right? You know, I get it both ways. I'm fine with either or. But the only thing is if you're not going to do any skins, then you got to make sure that the armor in the game looks badass. And you got to make sets so that I can look cool with the set, like rare sets. Like, I don't want to look like a mixed match starburst, right? Like, you got to do like sets and they got to look good, right?
Use the feeling of getting a cool new piece of endgame loot. You're basically only interested in the stats, unless it just happens to match one of your transmog sets. MMOs with transmog also typically have cosmetic cash shops where you can just pay to look cool regardless of your level, which creates an incentive for devs to make the coolest looking armor be tied to cash shop purchase rather than being earned in-game. When it comes to transmog, I'm 50-50. On one hand, I really enjoy running old content and collecting skins. On the other hand, I think it's really cool that in classic WoW I can just look at another player and instantly see what gear they have without having to inspect them. At this point, transmog isn't something that you can really take away from MMOs, and it's definitely in the devs' best interest to keep selling skins, with most players being okay with this. But that's it for this video.
Good video.
Obviously a highly subjective one. It is titled Things I Hate About MMORPGs, so I don't expect everyone to agree with me on some of these points, but I think it's a fun discussion regardless. And let me know the stuff that you hate about MMORPGs in the comments below. Help us out with a like for the algorithm gods if you enjoyed the vid. Social media on screen.
It's a bitch. This is my ult. I can't. You guys make me sub to every channel multiple times. I'm on Stoopzz. I'm on a different channel. You guys make me sub on all of my accounts. I agree with most of it. I mean, not everything, but I feel like it's, you know what? Like, I appreciate people that have different opinions and also can see things from both sides. I think that's the thing I appreciate the most. He won me over on the transmog thing. Like, I obviously love skins. Like, skins are super cool, but also I can see what he's, and I can appreciate videos like this. I think a lot of what he said is actually really true. Things that I agree with. The questing thing was pretty good. I mean, overall, I think it's a pretty good video. I liked it, man.